The morning sun peeked through the worn curtains of Sophia's tiny apartment. Her alarm blared for the third time, and she finally forced herself to roll out of bed. Her muscles ached from yesterday's double shift, but there was no time to rest. Another long day waited for her at sunset dinner. Sophia glanced at the small desk in the corner where her nursing textbooks were stacked next to a pile of unpaid bills. The red "Final Note IC" stamp on the electric bill made her stomach tighten. Next to it was her brother's school permission slip that needed a $30 check she couldn't afford to write yet. "Mike, you up?" she called, knocking on her brother's door. "You'll be late for school again." A grumble came from inside. At 16, Mike was doing his best since their parents died, but the loss had hit him hard. Sophia had become mom, dad, and sister overnight 2 years ago when that drunk driver changed their lives forever. "Made you a sandwich for lunch," she said, placing a brown paper bag on the counter. It wasn't much, just peanut butter and the last of the jelly, but it was something. Sophia caught her reflection in the hallway mirror as she grabbed her waitress uniform. Dark circles had become permanent features under her eyes. Her once vibrant black hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail. At 26, she sometimes felt twice that age. 20 minutes later, she pushed open the door to Sunset Diner, putting on her customer service smile. The smell of coffee and bacon filled the air as early morning truckers and factory workers filled the booths. "You're 3 minutes late, Rodriguez," Mr. Peterson said, checking his watch with exaggerated precision. The diner manager stood by the time clock, arms crossed over his chest. His thinning hair was combed over a shiny scalp, and his small eyes narrowed at her. "The bus was delayed, sir. I'm sorry." "Excuses don't serve customers," he snapped. Table 5 has been waiting for coffee refills. Sophia bit her tongue. She needed this job more than she needed to tell Mr. Peterson what she really thought of him. Grabbing the coffee pot, she made her rounds, warming cups, and chatting with the regulars who brightened her morning despite everything. "How's school going, honey?" asked Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman who came every morning for toast and tea. "One semester at a time," Sophia smiled, meaning it. "Anatomy exam next week. You'll ace it. Smart girl like you should be running this place instead of taking orders." If only it were that simple. Between classes 3 days a week and picking up every available shift, Sophia was barely sleeping. The tips from the diner covered rent and groceries, while her student loans piled up. She calculated every expense down to the penny. The bus fare instead of gas for a car she couldn't afford, the store brand everything, the nights she went to bed hungry so Mike could eat properly. During her lunch break, Sophia sat in the back alley, eating leftover fries from a customer's plate while studying her textbook. She had 15 minutes to memorize the major arteries of the heart before Mr. Peterson would come looking for her. "One day," she whispered to herself, tracing the diagram with her finger. "One day I'll be Nurse Rodriguez, and we'll have a real apartment with 2 bedrooms and a balcony." Her phone buzzed with a text from Mike. "Got a B+ on my math test." This made everything worth it. Her brother was going to graduate high school and go to college. She would make sure of it, no matter how many coffee pots she had to refill or how many times Mr. Peterson made her clean the bathrooms as punishment for imagined offenses. The afternoon dragged as the diner emptied out. Sophia wiped down tables and filled salt shakers, calculating her tips so far. It wasn't a great day. Tuesday never was, but if the dinner rush was decent, she might have enough for Mike's school trip next week. Little did she know that the bell above the door was about to ring, bringing in a customer who would change everything. But for now, she was just Sophia, a waitress with dreams bigger than her bank account and a heart that refused to give up despite the odds stacked against her. The sky had turned a deep gray by evening, and rain tapped against the windows of Sunset Diner. Sophia wiped down the counter for the third time, glancing at the clock. 2 more hours until her shift ended. Her feet throbbed in her worn-out shoes, and she'd been fighting a headache since lunch. "Hey, Rodriguez," Mr. Peterson barked from the kitchen. "Make yourself useful and refill the ketchup bottles." Rolling her eyes when his back was turned, Sophia grabbed the half-empty ketchup containers from each table. Tuesday evenings were usually slow, and tonight the weather had scared away most customers. Only old Mr. Wilson sat in the corner booth, nursing his coffee and reading yesterday's newspaper. The bell above the door jingled, sending a rush of cool, damp air through the diner. Sophia looked up to see a tall figure step inside, raindrops sliding off a dark hoodie pulled low over his face. The man paused at the entrance, scanning the nearly empty restaurant before choosing a booth far in the back. "I'll get this one," Sophia told her co-worker Liz, who was counting her tips by the register. As Sophia approached with a menu and glass of water, the man adjusted his hood, and she caught a glimpse of his face. Her heart skipped a beat as she recognized him immediately, the distinctive features, the familiar eyes. She'd seen him countless times on TV and social media. It was Big Shaq, the chart-topping rapper whose songs Mike played constantly around their apartment. Keeping her cool, Sophia set down the menu and water. "Evening. Can I start you with something to drink?" she asked, treating him like any other customer. The man looked up, surprised at her normal tone. For a split second, they locked eyes in silent understanding. He didn't want to be recognized, and she wasn't going to make a scene. "Just coffee, please," he said quietly, his famous deep voice unmistakable despite his attempt to tone it down. When Sophia returned with the coffee, Big Shaq gave her a grateful nod. "Thanks for, he gestured vaguely, not making this weird. "No problem," she replied with a small smile. "Everyone deserves to eat in peace. Ready to order?" He ordered a double cheeseburger with extra fries, relaxing a bit when he realized Sophia wasn't going to announce his presence or ask for selfies. As she placed his order with the kitchen, she noticed Mr. Peterson watching her suspiciously from across the room. The rain grew heavier outside, drumming against the roof. Big Shaq sipped his coffee and scrolled through his phone, occasionally glancing up when the door opened. Each time, his shoulders would tense until he confirmed it wasn't someone looking for him. "Rough day?" Sophia asked when she brought his food. "You could say that," he sighed, his voice low. "Been doing press all day for the new album. Sometimes you just need a minute to yourself, "I get it," she said, thinking of how she hid in the supply closet sometimes just to catch her breath between shifts. "Enjoy your burger." As Big Shaq ate, Sophia kept an eye on his table while serving the few other customers who braved the storm. She overheard bits of his phone conversation, something about schedule changes and venue problems. He looked stressed, rubbing his temple with one hand while holding his phone with the other. Mr. Wilson paid his bill and left, leaving Big Shaq as the only customer in the diner. Liz had clocked out early since business was slow, and Mr. Peterson disappeared into his office to do paperwork, which everyone knew meant watching videos on his phone. The famous rapper seemed to relax more as the diner emptied. He even hummed softly to himself, a tune Sophia recognized from his latest hit. When she brought him extra napkins he hadn't asked for, he looked up with surprise. "You got sauce on your sleeve," she explained, pointing to his expensive-looking jacket. "Thanks," he said, genuinely touched by the small gesture. "Most people are either too scared to talk to me or won't leave me alone. This is nice." Just as Sophia was about to respond, Big Shaq's phone rang again. His expression changed instantly as he answered, tension returning to his face. "What do you mean they won't wait?" he said into the phone, his voice rising slightly. "I'm 20 minutes away at most." Sophia moved away to give him privacy, but she could tell something was wrong. When she returned to clear his empty plate, Big Shaq was standing up, looking stressed. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Gotta run," he explained hurriedly. "Emergency meeting with the tour manager." Then his expression changed to one of embarrassment. "But I just realized I left my wallet at the hotel." Big Shaq's face fell as he patted his empty pockets. "I can't believe this," he muttered, clearly embarrassed. "My wallet's back at the hotel. I switched jackets last minute because of the rain." Sophia glanced toward the office where Mr. Peterson was hiding. The bill sitting on the table was $28.76. That was almost half her tips for the day, money she'd been counting on for bus fare the rest of the week, and Mike's school lunch money. "Look," Big Shaq said, his voice low, "I can call my driver to bring my wallet, but he's across town dropping off my manager. It'll be at least 40 minutes. The rain hammered against the windows even harder now. Lightning flashed, followed by a rumble of thunder that shook the old building. Sophia thought about what her mom would have done in this situation. She always said you could tell a person's character by how they treated others when they had nothing to gain. Don't worry about it, Sophia said, making up her mind. She pulled out her tips from her apron pocket, a small stack of crumpled bills, and counted out enough to cover his meal. What are you doing? Big Shaq asked, watching her. Covering your bill, she said simply. It's not a big deal. I can't let you do that, he protested, looking genuinely troubled. You work hard for that money. Sophia shrugged. Everyone has bad days and forgets things. I've been there. At least let me get your name and information so I can pay you back, he insisted, pulling out his phone. Sophia hesitated, then wrote her first name on a napkin. Honestly, it's okay. Just pay it forward sometime. Big Shaq stared at her for a moment. Why would you help me? You know I could buy this whole diner if I wanted to. Maybe, Sophia said, smiling a little. But right now, you're just a person who forgot their wallet, and I'm just another person who can help. That's all that needs to be. Something changed in Big Shaq's expression. The carefully maintained celebrity mask slipped away, replaced by genuine emotion. What's your full name? Sofia Rodriguez, she said, not thinking much of it. Sofia Rodriguez, he repeated, like he was making sure to remember it. I won't forget this. Nobody does something for nothing these days. She thought about telling him about nursing school, about Mike, about their parents, but stopped herself. She wasn't looking for charity or special treatment. It's really not a big deal. You better get going to your meeting. Big Shaq nodded and stood up. Thank you, Sophia, for real. He pulled his hood back up and headed for the door, turning back one last time. I'll make this right. Sophia waved him off with a smile. Good luck with your tour. As the door closed behind him, she gathered the dishes and put the money in the register, adding the receipt to the stack. Her feet hurt worse than ever, and now she'd be short on cash, but somehow she didn't regret her decision. The rain had slowed to a drizzle by the time Mr. Peterson emerged from his office, eyeing the empty diner suspiciously. Where's that customer? He asked, squinting at the booth Big Shaq had occupied. He left about 15 minutes ago, Sophia answered, wiping down the table. Mr. Peterson's eyes narrowed as he looked at the register tape. Who paid for this order? A knot formed in Sophia's stomach. He did. Cash. The manager crossed his arms. Funny, I was watching the security camera feed on my computer. Didn't look like he gave you any money. Sophia's heart raced. She hadn't considered the cameras. He was short on cash, so I covered it. I put my own money in the register. You what? Mr. Peterson's face reddened. That was him, wasn't it? That rapper? You let a millionaire walk out without paying? No, Or worse, he cut her off. You're lying about putting money in the register. Let's count it right now, shall we? I covered his bill with my own tips, Sophia insisted, her voice rising. Check the amount in the register if you don't believe me. Mr. Peterson stomped to the register and punched some buttons, checking the totals. His scowl deepened when he saw the numbers matched. Still, he wasn't backing down. You don't get to make these decisions, Rodriguez. For all I know, you're hoping to get special treatment from your celebrity friend. Maybe a backstage pass? A shoot-out on Instagram. Sophia felt her cheeks burning with anger and embarrassment. It wasn't like that. It was just a simple act of kindness. Well, your kindness shows poor judgment, Mr. Peterson sneered. What's next? Giving away free meals to anyone with a sad story. What's next? Giving away free meals to anyone with a sad story. Mr. Peterson's words hung in the air of the empty diner. I didn't give away anything, Sophia said, trying to keep her voice steady. I paid for his meal with my own money. Check the register again if you want. Mr. Peterson's thin lips pressed into an even thinner line. That's not the point, Rodriguez. You violated company policy. What policy? Sophia asked, genuinely confused. There's no rule against paying for a customer's meal with my own money. Don't get smart with me. Mr. Peterson's face was turning an unhealthy shade of red. You were fraternizing with a celebrity customer, trying to get special treatment, probably hoping he'd mention you on social media or something. Sophia couldn't believe what she was hearing. That's not what happened at all. He forgot his wallet and had an emergency meeting to get to. I was just being decent. Decent? Mr. Peterson snorted. You think I was born yesterday? I've seen how you operate, always looking for shortcuts. The unfairness of his accusation made Sophia's hands shake. Shortcuts. I work double shifts. I pick up every extra hour I can get. I haven't called in sick in 2 years. And now I know why, he shot back. You're after celebrity connections. Probably thought he'd give you a job or something better than this place. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the empty parking lot. In that brief moment of brightness, Sophia saw her reflection in the window. Tired eyes, slumped shoulders, wearing a stained uniform she'd have to wash in the sink tonight because their building's washing machine was broken again. That's ridiculous, she finally said. I was just being kind. Well, your kindness is going to cost you. Mr. Peterson crossed his arms. I've been watching you for a while now, always chatting with customers too long, taking those extra long breaks to study. He made air quotes with his fingers. This is just the final straw. A cold feeling spread through Sophia's chest. What are you saying? I'm saying you're fired, Rodriguez. He said it with a hint of satisfaction, like he'd been waiting for this moment. Get your things and get out. The words hit her like a physical blow. You're firing me for paying for someone's meal. With my own money? I'm firing you for poor judgment and unprofessional behavior. This incident is just the latest example. He held out his hand. Apron, please. Sophia stood frozen, her mind racing through calculations. Rent due in 10 days. Mike's school trip money. The electric bill already 2 weeks late. Her tuition payment for next semester. You can't do this, she whispered. I just did. His hand remained outstretched. The apron belongs to the diner. With trembling fingers, Sophia untied the apron and handed it over. 3 years of working at Sunset Diner ended just like that, over an act of kindness that had cost her $28.76. Can I at least finish my shift? She asked, hating the pleading note in her voice. I need the tips from tonight. Your shift is over. Mr. Peterson turned toward the office. Liz can cover the closing hours tomorrow. I'll call Diane to take your other shifts for the rest of the week. Sophia felt like she might throw up. Diane had been trying to get her hours for months. She'd probably been complaining to Mr. Peterson behind Sophia's back, looking for any excuse. This isn't fair, Sophia said, her voice stronger now as anger began to replace shock. I've never been late with my register. I've covered for other people dozens of times. Customers ask for my section specifically. Should have thought about that before you started giving away free food, he replied, not even looking at her now. I didn't give away anything. Sophia's voice rose. I paid for it myself. Save the dramatics, Rodriguez. Clean out your locker and be gone in 10 minutes, or I'll have to call security. Security? The security at Sunset Diner was just a fake camera by the register and Mr. Peterson's cousin who sometimes hung around on Friday nights. But the threat still landed as intended. Sophia walked to the small employee area in the back, passing the kitchen where the cook, Louis, gave her a sympathetic look. He'd obviously overheard everything but couldn't risk his own job by speaking up. Her locker contained so little, a spare shirt, her nursing textbook, a half-empty bottle of painkillers for her feet, and a photo of her and Mike at his 15th birthday stuck to the inside of the door with a magnet. 3 years in this place, and this was all she had to show for it. As she stuffed everything into her backpack, reality crashed down on her. How was she going to tell Mike? How were they going to pay rent? Would she have to drop out of nursing school after coming so far? Sophia stepped out into the rain, no longer caring that her thin jacket was getting soaked. The bus stop bench was wet, but she sat down anyway, clutching her backpack to her chest. The neon sunset dinner sign flickered behind her, casting an eerie red glow on the puddles forming at her feet. What just happened? She whispered to herself, still trying to process everything. 1 minute she was doing her job, the next she was unemployed over a simple act of kindness. The bus was late, giving her too much time to think. By the time it finally arrived, Sophia had cycled through shock, anger, and now creeping panic. She climbed aboard, dropping her last coins into the fare box. Tomorrow, she'd have to walk the 3 miles to campus for her afternoon class. The apartment was dark when she arrived home 2 hours earlier than usual. She flipped the switch, but nothing happened. Her heart sank as she remembered. The electricity had been shut off that morning. They had 3 days to pay before it would be turned back on. Using her phone's flashlight, Sophia made her way to the kitchen and found the emergency candles. The small flame cast long shadows across the tiny living room where she spread out all her bills on the coffee table. Mike's backpack was by the door, but his bedroom was empty. A note on the fridge held in place with their only magnet said, "At Denny's house studying, back by 10. At least he was safe and warm somewhere tonight. In the candlelight, Sophia began the grim math. Their savings account had exactly $342.17. Rent was due in 10 days, $875. The electric company needed $143.86 to turn the power back on. Mike's school trip was $30. Her next tuition installment was $1,200, due in 3 weeks. Even if she found another job tomorrow, which wasn't likely, she wouldn't get paid for at least 2 weeks. By then, they'd be homeless. Tears welled up in her eyes as she stared at the numbers that refused to add up, no matter how many times she rearranged them. For the first time since their parents died, Sophia felt completely hopeless. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mike. "Studying's done. Denny's mom making dinner. Ok, if I stay, they have heat." Sophia's throat tightened. Her brother didn't know yet that things had gone from bad to worse. She texted back, "Sure. Have fun. Love you." Alone in the dark apartment, Sophia finally let herself cry. Not the quiet tears she'd allowed herself when their parents died, but deep, body-shaking sobs that echoed off the bare walls. She cried for her parents, for the unfairness of Mr. Peterson, for the constant struggle just to stay afloat, and for the nursing dream that now seemed further away than ever. When the tears finally stopped, she felt hollow. The candle had burned down to a stub, its flame casting barely enough light to see. Outside, the rain continued to fall, tapping against the windows like tiny fingers. Sophia pulled her laptop from her backpack and opened it, squinting at the bright screen. The battery was at 42%. She'd have to be quick. She navigated to job search sites, filtering for positions that would hire immediately and pay weekly. The results were discouraging, mostly commission-based sales jobs or positions requiring experience she didn't have. Nothing that would pay enough to cover their expenses. Next, she checked for emergency assistance programs. Most had waiting lists or required documentation she didn't have readily available. One food bank was open tomorrow, at least. They could eat, even if they couldn't keep the lights on. As a last resort, Sophia opened her email and began composing a message to her nursing program advisor, explaining that she might need to take a semester off. The words felt like admitting defeat, but she couldn't see any other way forward. Her phone battery dropped to 15%, sending a warning notification across the screen. Like everything else in her life, even this small comfort was about to run out. With a deep sigh, Sophia closed the laptop and leaned back on the couch, pulling the thin throw blanket around her shoulders. She wouldn't tell Mike tonight. Let him have one more evening of not worrying, of being a normal teenager who could study at a friend's house and eat a home-cooked meal. Tomorrow would be soon enough for bad news. Tomorrow, she would put on a brave face and tell him they'd figure it out together, even though she had no idea how. Tomorrow, she would start over again, because that's what she'd been doing since the day her parents died, surviving one day at a time. As exhaustion finally overtook her, Sophia's last thought before falling asleep on the couch was of the famous rapper who had no idea what his forgotten wallet had cost her. She didn't blame him, not really. It wasn't his fault that Mr. Peterson was looking for an excuse. It wasn't his fault that her life had been balanced on such a precarious edge that one small push could topple everything. The candle flame flickered one last time before going out, leaving Sophia alone in the darkness with her dreams slipping further away by the minute. Sophia woke with a stiff neck and aching back from sleeping on the couch. Sunlight streamed through the windows. She'd forgotten to close the blinds last night. Her phone was dead beside her, and the apartment was still eerily quiet without the usual hum of the refrigerator. She splashed cold water on her face in the bathroom, wincing at her reflection. Her eyes were puffy from crying, and her hair was a tangled mess. Today was the day she'd have to tell Mike about losing her job. After changing into clean clothes, Sophia plugged her phone into her laptop to charge it just enough to turn on. She needed to call the electric company and beg for an extension. A loud knocking at the door startled her. Probably Mrs. Chen from next door, who sometimes brought over leftover dumplings when she made too many. The thought of food made Sophia's stomach growl. She hadn't eaten since yesterday's lunch. The knocking came again, more insistent this time. Coming, she called, running her fingers through her hair in a useless attempt to look presentable. She opened the door expecting Mrs. Chen, but instead found a tall man in a suit standing there. Behind him, parked on the street, was a sleek black SUV with tinted windows. "Sofia Rodriguez?" the man asked, checking a tablet in his hand. "Yes," she replied cautiously. "If this is about the electric bill, I'm calling them today." "I'm not from the utility company," he interrupted with a professional smile. "My name is Thomas. I'm the personal assistant to Michael DePauw." Sofia blinked in confusion. "Who?" "You might know him better as Big Shaq," Thomas explained. Her mouth fell open. "Big Shaq sent you? Why?" Before Thomas could answer, the back door of the SUV opened, and Big Shaq himself stepped out, dressed in designer clothes that probably cost more than 6 months of Sofia's rent. He was followed by a woman carrying a professional camera and a man with a microphone. "Is this the place?" Big Shaq called to Thomas, who nodded in response. Sofia froze in the doorway, suddenly aware of her wrinkled clothes and the dark apartment behind her. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Big Shaq bounded up the stairs with surprising energy, a wide smile on his face. "Sofia Rodriguez, the waitress with the biggest heart in the city." The camera woman moved into position, filming the entire interaction. "Wait, please, I don't understand," Sofia said, shrinking back. "Why are you here? And why aren't you filming this?" Big Shaq's expression softened. "After I left the diner last night, I couldn't stop thinking about what you did. Not many people would help a stranger like that, especially when they're struggling themselves." "How did you know where I live?" Sofia asked, still trying to process what was happening. "You'd be surprised what my fans can do," he grinned. "I posted your first name and the diner on social media last night, asking for help finding you. Within an hour, someone recognized you from your description, and things just snowballed from there." Sofia's cheeks burned with embarrassment. "Look, I appreciate you coming to pay me back, but this is too much. You didn't need to bring cameras." "Pay you back?" Big Shaq laughed. "Sofia, I'm not here to give you $28. I'm here to change your life." Her heart skipped a beat. "What?" From inside the apartment came the sound of a key in the lock. The door pushed open, and Mike stepped in, freezing when he saw the crowd at the entrance. "Sofia," he said cautiously, then his eyes widened as he recognized the rapper. "Holy, is that Big Shaq?" Big Shaq turned to the teenager with a grin. "You must be Mike. Your sister is an amazing woman." Mike looked between them in shock. "Someone want to tell me what's going on?" Before Sofia could answer, more cars pulled up on the street. A news van with a local station's logo on the side parked behind the SUV. A small crowd had already begun to gather, phones out, taking pictures. "Maybe we should go inside," Thomas suggested, eyeing the growing audience. "I'd rather not," Sofia said quickly, thinking of the dark apartment with its empty refrigerator and bills spread across the coffee table. "The power's off." "Not anymore," Big Shaq said with a knowing smile. "I made some calls this morning. Your electricity should be back on," along with a few other surprises. Sofia reached inside and flipped the light switch. The hallway light came on instantly. "How did you?" she began, but Big Shaq was already turning to address the gathering crowd and news crew. "Everybody listen up," he called out, his famous voice carrying down the street. "I want to tell you a story about kindness and how one small act can change everything." The crowd in front of Sofia's apartment building grew larger by the minute. Neighbors leaned out of windows, and people driving by slowed down to see what was happening. At the center of it all stood Big Shaq, his arm now around a bewildered Sofia's shoulders. "Last night, Big Shaq announced to the gathered crowd and news cameras, I was just a guy who forgot his wallet at the wrong time. And this woman," he squeezed Sofia's shoulder gently, "didn't see a celebrity. She just saw someone who needed help." Sofia's face burned with embarrassment. "It really wasn't a big deal," she whispered, but the microphones picked it up anyway. "Not a big deal," Big Shaq laughed. "You gave half your day's tips to a total stranger, and it cost you your job." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The news reporter stepped forward, microphone extended. "You lost your job for helping him?" she asked Sofia directly. Sophia nodded hesitantly. My manager thought I was trying to get special treatment or something. It wasn't like that at all. Mike pushed through to stand beside his sister, protective despite being completely starstruck. She's been working there for 3 years, double shifts. They fired her for being kind. Big Shaq nodded solemnly. That's why I'm here today. When I posted about finding this kind waitress, something amazing happened. My fans didn't just help me locate her, they wanted to help her too. He gestured to Thomas, who handed him a large envelope. Sofia Rodriguez, Big Shaq said, his voice carrying the same power it did when he performed in front of thousands. Inside this envelope is a check for $50,000. Sophia's knees buckled. Mike caught her arm to steady her. That's too much, she stammered. I can't accept that. It's not from me, Big Shaq explained, surprising everyone. Well, not just from me. When I shared your story online, donations started pouring in. People from all over the country giving $5, $10, whatever they could spare for the waitress with the heart of gold. This is from them, from people who believe kindness should be rewarded, not punished. Tears filled Sophia's eyes as she accepted the envelope with shaking hands. There's more, Big Shaq continued. Thomas, bring them over. Thomas waved to someone in the crowd, and 3 people stepped forward, a woman in a business suit, a man in casual clothes but with an expensive watch, and another man in a university polo shirt. This is Patricia, Big Shaq introduced the woman. She's the VP of Student Affairs at City College. Patricia stepped forward with a warm smile. We've established a full scholarship in your name, Ms. Rodriguez. Your nursing school tuition is covered through graduation, and we want to offer your brother Mike a full scholarship as well when he's ready for college. Mike's mouth fell open. For real? Patricia nodded. For real. The man in casual clothes stepped up next. I'm David, the owner of Sunset Diner. Sophia's eyes widened. The owner? But I thought Mr. Pedersen. Peterson manages the place. I own the building and business, David explained. And when I heard how he treated you, I was disgusted. He's been let go, effective immediately. A cheer went up from the crowd. Among them, Sophia spotted Louis the cook and several other diner employees who must have come to see what was happening. But that's not all, David continued. I've been looking to retire for a while now, and I need someone who understands the diner, someone with good judgment and a kind heart to take over. He held out a set of keys. How would you like to be the new manager, Sophia? With flexible hours around your school schedule, of course. Sophia couldn't speak. She reached for the keys in a daze. The third man stepped forward. And I'm Dr. Patel from Memorial Hospital. When we heard you're studying nursing, we wanted to offer you a paid internship that will count toward your clinical hours. It comes with a part-time position as a nursing assistant while you complete your degree. By now, Sophia was openly crying. Mike put his arm around her, his own eyes wet with tears. I don't know what to say, she finally managed. Big Shaq smiled. You don't have to say anything. But maybe there's something you can do. Anything, Sophia nodded. The diner will need a new mission, he said. And I was thinking, with your experience struggling to get through school while supporting your brother, maybe you could use it to help others in similar situations. David nodded enthusiastically. We could start a program, maybe free meals for students in need, or a scholarship fund from a percentage of the profits. The Sunset Scholarship, Mike suggested, finding his voice. For kids who are trying to make it work against the odds. Sophia looked around at the crowd of strangers who had come together to change her life. Just yesterday, she had felt completely alone. Now she was surrounded by people who believed in her, who valued the simple kindness she had shown. I promise, she said, her voice growing stronger, to pay this forward every single day. Big Shaq beamed with pride. That's all anyone can ask. He turned to address the cameras again. This is what happens when we recognize kindness instead of taking advantage of it. This is what happens when we lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. As the crowd cheered, Sophia felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time, hope, not just for herself and Mike, but hope that maybe the world wasn't as cold as it sometimes seemed. That one small act of kindness could ripple outward, touching lives she would never even know about. The apartment that had felt so dark and empty last night was now overflowing with light and possibility. and it had all started because she had seen someone who needed help and hadn't looked away. Later that evening, after the crowds dispersed and the news vans drove away, Sophia and Mike sat on their couch looking at each other in disbelief. "Did that really just happen?" Mike asked, still dazed. Sophia nodded, looking down at the keys to the diner in her hand. "I think it did." "All because you paid for a burger." Mike shook his head in wonder. "No," Sophia corrected him gently. "All because someone saw value in kindness." She smiled, feeling the weight of the past few years finally beginning to lift. Mom and Dad would have loved this. "Yeah," Mike agreed, his voice soft. "They would have." Outside their window, the city lights twinkled like stars. For the first time in a long time, those lights didn't remind Sophia of all the bills she couldn't pay or all the dreams just out of reach. Tonight, they looked like possibilities, endless, shining possibilities stretching out before her.